Okay, welcome everyone. We're doing a new thing. We're attempting to do a new thing for the next couple weeks where we're doing some daily live streams in the morning covering different topics about logic. This is one of my favorite parts of what we do in logic, and so, or what I do on YouTube rather, is just getting straight to talking to some of you and going over things. So we're going to up our streaming game a little bit. Today was going to be a short one. I've got class in 30 minutes. Normally, I'd be able to do a full hour if I had started at the 8:30 that I originally planned, but someone at the university where I work was like, "We need to reschedule the meeting," and I thought they were moving it to 8:30 this morning. Turns out it's next week, so we just pushed it back 30 minutes. So we'll do what we can in 30 minutes. Think of this more as like a little bit of an announcement video than anything. Uh, so we'll see how it goes. The two things that I wanted to bring up in this particular stream, one of them is the update schedule for Logic, because I've been tracking this a little bit, to see just exactly what we're expecting here. And the truth is, we got 10.7 10 months ago, give or take, 10 to 11 months ago. And since then, and that was the one where they create Dolby Atmos spatial audio mixes. They had a bunch of new sounds and a bunch of different things that came from GarageBand in terms of drum kits and loops and some presets. So we had the 8 producer packs and all the different sound packs. Something like almost 3,000 loops, 50 kits, 120 patches. So I'm just reading the specs now. So a lot of stuff came out at that point. And then 9 months, we just had like a stability update. 8 months, Korean language support. 5 months, we could use spatial audio with dynamic head tracking on the AirPods Max, AirPods Pro, AirPods 3rd generation, and Beats Fit Pro. And we can actually use the Apple binaural renderer. So no more spatial audio stuff. And then it was optimized for the Mac Studio Max, the Mac Studio Ultra, some bug fixes. And then we had 10.7.4 3 months ago, which essentially just did some bug fixes and some stability, some minor things in all of those. So in the past, getting on to almost a year, all we've gotten in Logic is spatial audio and some spatial audio tools and a bunch of content that GarageBand had before that. So what's next? They've given us computers that can do incredibly powerful things, but by all accounts, you could have done almost everything you need to on previous computers with Logic. I mean, there's nothing super like incredible that the new computers are allowing us to do that we couldn't do before, I should say. And so that has me thinking they've definitely slowed down on the feature set. And either we're going to be getting a 10.7.5 in the next week or two, which is my guess. I don't actually know. Or, I mean, they'll probably do another, some sort of stability thing at some point. Let me look back. So 10.6 had a 10.6.1, 0.2, 0.3, and then it went to 7. But that was a little bit of a weird cycle. So was 10.5. We had 10.5 and 10.5.1, and that was it. Before that, 10.4 went to 10.4.8, and yeah. So I mean, it's like they're really inconsistent with some of this stuff in terms of when they're doing it. And I think that that's kind of frustrating in some ways, but not surprising. I'm not saying I'm surprised at all. And then, oh, hey, Roberto from Italy. How are you doing? So, what I want to hear in the comments, because I'm assuming most of you are going to be watching this after the fact, um, in the comments, what is it that you want most from the short-term update plan of Logic? Is there anything that you wish that they would update, in the next couple weeks in terms of bug fixes or, small things? And then also, what are your long-term wishes for Logic? What do you think it would be nice to see in the long term for this? Both of those, I think, are kind of what we're looking at now. To get the conversation started a little bit, uh, because I just switched over to the Ultra this week and have been testing things out, I thought I would go back and retest one thing that has always kind of bothered me a little bit, and that is how now, if a developer allows it, you can use their iPad, iPhone, or just iOS, iPad um, apps on the computer, right? So we can do that with the M1 and M2 architecture because it matches the silicon and those other devices. So we can do that, and there's a number of them that have kind of let that slip through, or they just don't care, or they said, yeah, sure, go ahead. Relatively few of them are programming those apps to truly be, Mac Studio Ultra compatible. And they're saying if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't, and they're just letting it slide. You can tell that. Let me open up my App Store for a second. You can tell that because, uh, for instance, if I do a search for AU V3, which is the audio unit version 3, I can click on the filter here to say iPhone, iPad apps, and then it says designed for iPad, not verified for Mac OS. And I would say all of them say that. I haven't seen any that don't. So, that's what it is. And when you go into Logic, let's do our plugin manager. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Clicked on the wrong thing, although that's cool too. There we go. So you can see, let's see, I've got a couple. This one right here, iSem. This is an iPad app. It says couldn't be opened. It says AU3, so version 1.6. It says it's it recognizes all of the stuff. Let's click on that. That's something I haven't actually tried with that one yet. AU3 mode. Wow. Has anyone actually seen that or used that before? Let me know. We're going to try this out real quick because I may have to reboot it. So I don't remember if and when that got added in, the actually having that ability. Let's see if it shows up. I'll have to maybe do this later. No, it says it's showing up. Okay, so here's where I may crash the entire system. Yeah. It's going to crash it. I'm just going to leave that sitting up there for a second as a memory of this thing that's happening. So this is a perfect example. It doesn't fully work. It just doesn't fully work. These things, they're like trying to say that if they work in this AU3, the Audio Unit 3 version on iPad OS or iOS, that it should be able to work here. And I've only ever gotten one instrument to work. And that's the KQ Dixie, which is a DX7 clone, and sounds amazing. Let's see if I can cancel out of this. Yeah, it's not going to let me. Let's not save that. Oh, there's my syllabus for class. Let's reload it up. And in this case, let's just do an empty project. Software, cool. So let me show you the KQ Dixie one. And this is an awesome instrument on my iPad. I got this, it costs like 10 bucks or whatever when I first got it. I don't remember, or I don't know what it's costing right now. It's a DX7 clone, one of the most classic synthesizers ever. And you can actually come through. Let's see if I can get, let's see. No, not that. So you can see it looks like an iPad screen. This is an iPad thing. Here we go. So I have the ROM 1 loaded up. ROM 1 is the original presets for this instrument. And so I can come through and use bass 1. We have to turn off. They always add in these effects that weren't on the original DX7. And that's the exact DX7 patch that you've heard on like a bazillion songs from the 90s. But I mean, everybody was using that patch. Michael Jackson had it on tracks. Everybody. So cool. Great instrument that I bought on my iPad. There are ones you can get for your Mac that you can pay for, but if I've already paid for it in one format, this is kind of nice to be able to just pull it over, and all my patches and stuff that I've created on my iPad work on that. I'm guessing right now, because Arturia is back, I'm guessing it's still not going to let me, even though I rebooted. Let's see. Maybe it'll do it once I reboot. The beach ball of death. So while that is spinning, 85 Audio says, would love to see a little faster browser for audio samples. I mean, yeah, I'd say file management and Logic is not its strong point. And then Matt says, I would love to see updated interfaces for the older plugins and some added synthesis features to Alchemy. I don't know about the added synthesis features to Alchemy. We could always use more, but that thing is so deep already. I would love to see Sculpture updated because it has a lot of potential, and it's kind of just the starting of what modeling synthesis could be. So you can see now on my screen, this other iPad app has just crashed Logic completely. So turning on the AU3 thing didn't really seem to make a difference, except that it still crashes, just in a different way. So this, to me, is a perfect example of something that I would love to see actually get implemented. The promise of being able to do all of this stuff with Logic and the iPad, it's like they've teased it for years. You can connect this into your workflow. We've got Sidecar. We've got universal control. We have audio units that theoretically should work on both systems. And yet we've never actually gotten like a fully functional ecosystem of apps in all of this. So I'm hoping at some point that this becomes more of a priority and that they actually start to make this happen. If they're not going to just give us Logic on the iPad, then they should make all of this other stuff work, right? And it just doesn't work right now. If it did work, it would blow me away. I mean, this stuff would be amazing. This is like the first step. The first step of making me believe that we could do this on an iPad is having plugins that work in both places, right? If they're not going to work in both places, I have no faith that the whole promise of the iPad is ever going to be fulfilled. That's just, it doesn't make sense. This is all very, I mean, it's doable. I'm not the one doing it, so I can't actually say that it's 100% doable. Maybe there's some catches in there that I'm not aware of, but you would think this would be something that could be possible. And so that's what I'm hoping for myself. And you never know. Maybe it'll happen. I fully expect that there'll be, like I said, an update any day of some sort. And of course, when that comes out, I'll be making a number of videos, even if it's just a bunch of bug fixes and stability things. We'll be looking through some of our favorite warts on Logic and seeing if anything has changed, because you never know. I'm not upgrading this computer to the beta of OS 10, which I often do with things, and I may do that with my old Mac Mini M1 now. Just put that up on the beta, but we're getting close enough um, that it should be coming out in the next couple months. Bert said something on the chat just now that I 100% agree with, which is updated Logic Remote on iPad with improved GUI with plugins. I mean, that has been done in other apps for years now. There have been some controller apps which you could actually load up. And now that we have the ability to do sidecar or, just screen AirPlay to your iPad, there's no reason why you shouldn't have the full graphic interface for all the plugins you're doing instead of just like sliders. Do you need the graphic interface? Of course not, if you can do all the stuff without it. But I remember when they first had the EQ go into the remote app and you didn't have the graphic interface. And I was just like, why in the world would you build an app that didn't let you do EQ with your fingers? Move the different nodes and all of that stuff. That makes so much more sense to be able to have that interaction with the software instead of something that's completely different. And when they finally made it so you could do the EQ with the curves, it was like, okay, I could actually use this. And then you look at the instruments and the other plugins and none of them have it, and you think, oh, okay, we have a long way to go with this. So that would be awesome. And I haven't seen any updates in that realm either, except for small stuff over the past year or two. I mean, think about this. Uh, I get a lot of pushback about spatial audio from Logic users. I would say the majority of Logic users don't care about spatial audio. Tell me if I'm wrong, because maybe I'm wrong. But the truth is, if you're going to do spatial audio as such a huge new feature, and then take the remote app on the iPad and not give you the ability to do any mixing in spatial audio using a tactile, semi-tactile experience, the multi-touch experience rather, then what? Why do you have a remote app and an iPad in this equation at all? Because that to me seems like the way to be able to do some of the spatial audio mixing. Instead of using your mouse, have it on the screen. Rotate it around. Use the pinching gestures we're so used to now. It's like you could do so much with that interface, and they just have never done it. So yeah, I can already see on the comments, never use spatial audio. And the truth is, most people don't. But it's actually well within your grasp. If you already have Logic, you have to have one of the Silicon Macs. That's a huge catch. If you don't have a Silicon Mac, you can't really do this. And then you can use the Apple headphones, which range in price from $70 or $80 to $500. So that's pretty affordable to do some basic things. So you could set up your mix on your normal speakers and normal high quality headphones, and then convert it into spatial audio using the Apple products, which are relatively affordable. You have all the mixing, exporting tools here inside Logic, and then you do something like DistroKid, which, for under $100, because you have the yearly subscription, and then you have the single upload for spatial audio cost, which is, that's the cost you pay after the yearly cost. And you could be putting your tracks up in spatial audio in that workflow. So it's actually well within all of your abilities. If any of you are charging customers or doing projects as a producer or engineer, and someone says, hey, I'd like to do a song with you, and you're like, ooh, cool. And they're like, what is the spatial audio thing all about? And you're like, it's kind of lame. Instead, you could say, it's amazing. We could do one of your songs in spatial audio. I mean, my rates are a little bit higher for that because it's really specialized technology. And then it's like part of your business model. So it's not something to ignore at this point, even if you have been. Ever tried mixing on AirPods Max? No, I have not. I'm interested by them as well. Um, Obviously, I've got headphones that are significantly better quality in many ways. And so I haven't invested in the Max ones. Uh, so I've heard decent things about them, but they're still have limitations. I mean, they're closed back. If you're doing like actual mixing on headphones, I mean, you might use those more for tracking, except for they're wireless, and so there's a delay. So I mean, there's all kinds of issues with it. It's like they're not ideal in some ways for tracking, or for tracking for sure, for mixing as well. Open back ones are going to give you a little bit better response over all of the frequencies, including low frequencies. But these wouldn't be good for tracking because you'd have a lot of bleed into the microphone. So it goes back and forth. Add some new color themes. I don't actually, that doesn't interest, or I don't actually care about the color themes as much. Just because it is what it is. Looks for software are far less important unless it's a functionality thing. So for instance, alchemy as compared to sculpture. Sculpture has the old interface. It's super busy. There's stuff. It's like you have to like really know that plugin to use it effectively. And then you look at alchemy, everything's laid out in a nice, organized way. It's clear. It's easy to read. It's like the print isn't like small in different places unexpectedly. And so in that case, the user experience, the UX of all of that is really going to change your workflow. You're going to be able to be more efficient with one than the other one. And so I think that in terms of the experience of using something like Logic, the more that they can make it usable, the better. And I don't care about customizable as much either. I mean, a lot of people rave about something like Reaper and it's customizable. It's the ability to customize it, and I just think, you know what, cool. I don't need to customize. I'd rather use in many ways. So we are, for this stream, going to be doing things like talking about new things that are released, that come out, software things, announcements from Apple, all of that. But we're also, when we don't have a lot of that to talk about, then we'll be doing demonstrations and going through some of the features of Logic in different ways. But most importantly, we're going to be making this interactive as much as possible. So, you'll be able to comment and do that. Um, I'm starting to do the chat on screen. I'm going to probably change the style of that a little bit for next time, so that's even easier to read. But I want that to be a major part of what we do here, is actually have that conversation back and forth. We're going to be ending this stream. I usually try to go for 60 minutes, as you can look and see all my previous streams, but today is going to be around 25 to 26 minutes, primarily because I teach a class immediately after this at the university. And so I've got to go get that prepped up as the students come in, and we can jump into that. So if you're having any desire to come back, then this will be about the same time. We're going to try to do it at 8:30 to 9:30 Mountain Standard Time, which is my time zone, and we'll be doing that again tomorrow. Just weekdays. I probably won't stream on the weekends. And then Monday through Friday, as long as my kids don't have a day off of school, then we'll be streaming almost every day for at least a little bit to see how it goes, because we'll see how much interest there is. We're gonna really try to make this valuable and put it into a format so that you know what to expect every time you come. But thanks for those of you who are watching right now. I know we just had a few more people jump on, and you're going to be so sad, but we're pulling the plug on this until tomorrow morning, and we'll try to do the full hour tomorrow morning. So if you are so inclined, come back and check out in that. We'll try to put in the description of the stream what we'll be talking about so that you can see that coming. But otherwise, thanks everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow.